Are you saying that our criminal justice administration is not up to scratch to be able to fight corruption?
Yes, I think that the problem is that the NPA was hollowed out during the state capture project of Jacob Zuma, and that the current leadership is stymied by the fact that there are so many, what they like to call saboteurs among the staff on the NPA. And that obviously means that any effort to get on top of grand corruption, kleptocracy, state capture is thwarted by the presence of people who have been put into the criminal justice administration not to administer justice, but to protect those who were involved in state capture during what our president calls the 9 wasted years, when he's not referring to the ANC as accused number 1.
Yeah, indeed. Well, let's talk then about what we have been seeing now. I mean, one would say we've never seen the Hawks acting as much as they are acting in this administration. We've never seen the SIU as busy as they are busy right now. So investigations are going on. The Zondo Commission is going on. Testimony being given every day. The Hawks arresting people every day. Maybe the biggest snag in the whole process is the prosecuting of those who are involved in grand scale, and to actually see them go behind bars.
Yes, I think you're right. The orange overalls have not been unpacked yet. We are still waiting for that to happen. And for so long as the NPA is left in charge of dealing with the corrupt among us, they are hamstrung in their efforts by a lack of capacity, undercapacitation, resources such as artificial intelligence to go tearing through all of Steinhoff's books, for example, using artificial intelligence rather than a man with a piece of rubber on his thumb checking entries page by page very laboriously. All of that sort of thing makes it very difficult for the South African Criminal Justice Administration to get on top of grand corruption in South Africa as a project of the National Prosecuting Authority itself. And that is going to continue to be the position unless the political will to grapple with grand corruption is generated. And there are signs that the ANC is prepared to consider that. At the beginning of August, it was announced that the ANC National Executive Committee, which is its highest decision-making body between conferences, had passed a resolution asking Cabinet to urgently establish a standalone, permanent, specialized entity to deal with corruption. And if that were to happen, the ANC and the Constitutional Court would very happily be on the same page as each other, which has not been the case during the Zuma years, for reasons that anybody who has watched anything that's been happening at the Zondo Commission will understand. Remember, the Zondo Commission is only a commission of inquiry. It does not have any executive powers. It is not a prosecuting authority. And indeed, the Special Investigations Unit is similar. It only has civil jurisdiction. It is not involved in criminal justice administration. If it finds a crime, it passes the file on to the Hawks. And the Hawks, like the NPA, suffer from that capture phenomenon that is still with us to this day.
Yeah. Now, the very same ANC that has passed that resolution, if you ask them what that independent body would need to do, some politically will tell you that, well, firstly, you will need to go and investigate crimes that were committed in apartheid. And then you need to go and investigate crimes that were committed in the other administrations before you come and blame the Zuma administration. And in fact, you need to go further and investigate this current administration and that sitting president and the state capture that he has committed. I mean, the interconnectedness of all this politically makes it almost impossible for anybody to be able to focus on one thing and investigate one thing.
Yes, I think you're quite right. Accountability is not selective. If you're going to exact accountability in the manner envisaged in the Constitution, then you are going to exact accountability from everybody who has been involved in corruption. The problem about exacting accountability against those who are kleptocrats or involved in state capture, for example, is that they have taken control of the criminal justice administration. And this is not unique to South Africa. It is a problem that has occurred all around the world, and it is something that is going to be discussed at a special session of the United Nations General Assembly in June next year. That special session is going to be considering whether a specialized international anti-corruption court should see the light of day so that kleptocrats get their comeuppance. The difficulty being that at local level, there is simply no political will, no capacity, no facilities to exact accountability from people involved in grand corruption. It will be a big change in international law, but it will be consonant with our obligations. South Africa is a member of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, and obviously effective and efficient anti-corruption machinery can be designed at international level so that those countries where countering corruption at local level is impossible because of the sorts of problems that we hear our National Director of Public Prosecutions complaining about continuously, can be solved by an international body exercising complementary jurisdiction to go after grand corruption.
Yeah.
That means that it can only exercise jurisdiction if there is nobody at local level who can take up the matter.
I suppose setting up an apex court of that nature is probably the easiest part, because you just need people with expertise and are able to investigate and carry out the processes. But the toughest thing would, of course, getting the cooperation of those countries. For example, case in point, we're signatories to the ICC protocol, but when it was time for us to hand over Omar al-Bashir, it was a completely different story. In fact, it led to the point where we are right now, where South Africa says, no, we want to pull out of this thing. We can have that court, but what is to say that South Africa will actually want to participate in that court and take their own to go and appear before that court?
Yes, certainly. I think that we're probably backing away from the unfortunate decision-making around al-Bashir. He has received his comeuppance via the Sudanese people themselves, to their great credit. But what we've got to really bear in mind is that the International Anti-Corruption Court, if it ever sees the light of day, will only ever need to do any work if it occurs that a country which is a member of the International Anti-Corruption Court is in a situation of capture. And I think that the difficult part about forming an international anti-corruption court is to generate the political will to do so. The International Criminal Court, which works with crimes against humanity and genocide and such like, was formed in a sort of golden age when Madiba was in charge in South Africa and actually dragged Africa into the International Criminal Court. That kind of political will is probably best generated now by the carrot and stick approach of saying, if you want to remain in international organizations like the United Nations, the International Labour Organization, the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, then you must join the International AntiCorruption Court, so that the sort of good work that those institutions can bring to bear in developing countries is not all wasted on the leakage of grand corruption, diverting funds away from the upliftment of the poor and toward the pocket of the crooks, the kleptocrats, and those who choose to make money out of politics instead of using politics as an opportunity to serve the people.
Would an international anti-corruption court be enough of a stick for future kleptocrats who would be coming into office to not follow their predecessors?
Yes, I think that certainly there are salutary lessons to be learnt from the experience with the International Criminal Court, which has really put a stop because of its deterrent effect. So it's not because there have been hundreds and hundreds of prosecutions, but it's because those people who have hitherto or before the ICC involved themselves in genocidal activity now pause before they get involved, because they know that there is a court out there that can bring them to justice. Similarly, with an international anti-corruption court, you could find yourself in a situation where those who have taken control of their local, their national level anti-corruption machinery so that it cannot be used against them will pause before they get involved in corrupt activities. Because remember, corruption is a crime of greed, and it is a crime that is carefully planned in advance. People don't do corruption if they think they're going to get caught. They do it if they think they can get away with it, if they see everybody else getting away with it, which is what's happened in South Africa. More and more public servants, more and more business people say, why should I earn an honest living when I can make a lot more money stealing taxpayers' money? That's the problem.
Director and Head of Projects and Accountability now, Advocate Paul Hoffman. We appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Newsfeed Late Night.